In 1983, Alvin and the Chipmunks got a new TV series. This would be the show that debuted the rivals and sometimes girlfriends, the Chipettes. By the show's 8th and final season, it became a retool called The Chipmunks Go to the Movies that focused on doing movie parodies instead of following the adventures of the Chipmunks and Chipettes. During the second episode, a parody of Tom Hanks' 1988 Big was featured, but instead was called Bigger. In this episode, Alvin is friends with Simon and Theodore, and they had their own band called the Furballs. Despite them being pretty talented, no record producer wanted to take them because they were little kids. Keep in mind, the story exaggerates for the sake of the plot. In real life, record producers take kids all the time. Nevertheless, Alvin wasn't having it. The next step was the county fair, where they were once again shot down for being too little. When Alvin goes for a walk, he comes across a jukebox that had the power to grant real wishes. In the movie Big, it was a wish machine with an actual Zotar. The jukebox granted his wish right on the spot. Being older now meant he had the freedom to go anywhere he wanted and take his friends with him. And the first place he wanted to go was the Babes concert. After Dave, his dad, gave him some money thinking he was a bum, Alvin and friends took a trip to the concert where they find the Chipettes performing on stage. However, in this story, they were a rock group called the Babes and appeared to be older for the plot. They could also be heard singing The Girls of Rock and Roll, which was first heard in the 1987 Chipmunk Adventures movie, sometimes also referred to as The Girls and Boys of Rock and Roll. Because Alvin was an adult, him and his friends sat in the adult section, where they shared a table with the supervisors for the Babes. Alvin came at the perfect time because the girls were trying to change their image. Even Barbie, the lead singer performed by Britney, wanted her name changed. After giving his opinions on the girls, he was hired on the spot to work in the music studio, where all his accidental choices ended up being successful.
Alvin, how about a heavy metal band called the Plumbers? Flush the Plumbers!
So the president decided he was ready to manage the Babes. For those who actually know the show lore, these girls were much more aggressive than the Chipettes. It's a whole different ballgame when a soft-spoken Jeanette is threatening you.
You know, attitude. Yeah, something that'll make us hotter than we are now. And we want it by Friday.
Because Alvin still had the mindset of a 4th grader, he failed to understand what they were asking of him. They wanted to be hotter with a new style. Likely something more adulterated to get away from a kiddie image. He does the complete opposite and has them dress up as babies instead.
Everyone loves babies!
Even though he was a 4th grader, it was like he progressively got dumber as time went on. Now, he had one job and one chance to screw up, and everything that can go wrong went wrong, starting when Barbie didn't like how that teddy bear stepped on her foot. Then Jeanette's bonnet blinded her, causing her to bounce Eleanor across the room where they soon bumped back into each other, destroying the entire set and studio. That would spell the end of Alvin's career and soon his desire to be an adult. It surely wasn't getting the seal of approval from Barbie.
I want a new director! This is harder than I thought.
By the next day, sure enough, he got a call back and was terminated with tummy ache and all.
But that's not fair!
Stop acting like such a baby!
What?
The Babes don't appear again for the rest of the episode.
Summer camp, bunch of has-beens. Has-beens? Has-beens!
Heinz Tiny Toon, Beans and Bites.
Before there was a Minnie Mouse, and shortly before Hortensia the cat, there was a lady rabbit by the name of Fanny. Fanny was the first girlfriend to Walt Disney's first famous creation, Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, who he came up with during his time at Universal Studios. In 2010, Walt Disney Studios published the video game Epic Mickey. It was Oswald's first big project since his return to Disney. Originally for the game, Fanny was supposed to also return and be his love interest, which could have also made her Oswald's Queen of the Wastelands. Instead, she was scrapped for Hortensia, who was Oswald's latest girlfriend. Her outfit of choice used to consist of a skirt, and on occasions, a hat with a flower on it. It was a traditional retro look that is still very much worn by Hortensia, and was a classic look for Minnie Mouse during the 1920s. In 1934, under Walter Lantz, not only did Oswald receive a complete alteration to his design and personality, Fanny was also brought back in order to play his sister as Gretel.
What do you have, my little miss? I want a cake as big as this.
While the name Fanny was displayed during Candy House, during the Universal period with Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks, on screen her name was never mentioned. During the time you could only find it on copyrighted documents. Fast forwarding decades into the future, however, you can find her name now in Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, The Search for the Lost Disney Cartoons, as well as Walt in Wonderland, the silent films of Walt Disney. Upon observation, both books list her under the full name of Fanny Cottontail. However, the name Fanny wasn't given to her until later on. Both books state before that Universal was referring to her as two different names, once being referred to as the Girl, and at another point was referred to as Miss Rabbit. She was a very brief character, making only 4 main appearances under Walt Disney and Ub, with her first appearance being O Teacher, which was released on September 19, 1927. At the beginning of O Teacher, we see Oswald riding his bike to Fanny's house so he can pick her up and take her to school. As they ride along, they are spotted by a bully who decides to use them as an opportunity to get to school. He clotheslines Oswald and proceeds to take control of the runaway bike, with Fanny still in the side cart. The cart eventually breaks away from the bike and rolls down the hill, sending her plummeting into a lake. As Oswald tries to rescue Fanny from drowning, the bully walks over him and steals the rescue. After recovering, she thanks him, but scolds Oswald as she holds her nose up at him and flips her skirt. She may have possibly thought he caused the accident. Trying to get revenge, Oswald has his head knocked clean off his shoulders, and it's the bully who makes the save yet again by getting him and Fanny to school on time. Oswald's vengeance, however, wouldn't stop there, as he waits outside during the recess with a brick in his hand. But when he gets caught, the bully throws the brick into the air where it slides down the gutter, where it soon comes out the other end and knocks him out cold. Upon seeing Fanny coming, Oswald began boasting and flexing his muscles in order to impress her, as if he was the one that knocked him out. And it works, as she praises him as the cartoon draws to a close. Her next appearance was in The Mechanical Cow, which was released on October 3rd, 1927. Almost midway into the cartoon, we see her skipping along with a bucket in her hand. She brings it to Oswald so he can fill it with milk. After he does, he gives it to her and she takes her leave. Oswald soon decides to take a break from his gig and goes off to follow her. As they sat and flirt with each other, they were unaware of the pending danger that was nearby, as a mysterious shadowy figure sneaks up on them, grabs Fanny, and throws her into the back of the car. The vehicle then takes off, where she is soon seen fighting and screaming for her life. Oswald, in pursuit on the back of his mechanical cow, eventually catches up and pulls Fanny out the back of the car with the support of his neck. When the villains realize she's gone, they turn around in order to get her back. The chase ends up sending Fanny and Oswald off the edge of a cliff, where they end up hanging onto a single branch. The shadowy villains eventually ride off the back of the mechanical cow and fall to their watery demise. The vehicle that falls after will create enough water pressure to help the couple get back onto safe land. Oswald then prepares a seat for him and Fanny on the back of the mechanical cow, where they soon ride off together. Great Guns, which had its general release on October 17, 1927, was Fanny's shortest appearance and the first and only time she didn't have to play a damsel in distress. In Great Guns, a war was about to take place and Oswald was participating. Before embracing the battlefield, the first person he rushed to was his girlfriend, who seemed to be very impressed with the news that he was becoming a soldier, which isn't all that surprising, seeing as Fanny has somewhat of a history of liking men who symbolize strength, and Oswald is just the kind of guy who doesn't mind using it to score some points with her. But pretty soon the fun and games are over, as the trumpet calls for Oswald. However, Fanny wasn't ready for him to go, and the two embrace each other for as long as possible. Oswald then decides it's time to break it up, as he detaches his lips from hers. But as he stands and looks at her, he has a change of heart and the two go back to being intimate. The scene soon transitions him out on the battlefield in the middle of enemy fire, where Fanny is nothing more than a picture. Just him, the picture, and what seems to be no comrades in sight. Towards the end of the cartoon, Oswald finds himself shattered to pieces by a cannonball. We eventually see Fanny make a last-minute return as a nurse and calls for a ceasefire in order to help the victim. She gathers up the pieces and restores them in safety at the hospital. Unbeknownst to her, the pieces that she was restoring was Oswald. At the sound of her voice, he eventually wakes up and sees her in front of him, and the couple lovingly embrace each other yet again as the cartoon comes to a close. All Wet was released on Halloween Day, October 31st, 1927. This cartoon marked the last official appearance of Fanny under Disney at Universal, and it's the same one that introduced us to an almost completely different incarnation of her. She makes her grand entrance skipping along the beach with her hands on her hips, and makes a stop at Oswald's hot dog stand. Fanny, for most of her short career, was generally sweet and innocent in her nature, but during her last appearance, she was much more flirtatious and voluptuous. She drops a sign of interest to Oswald, then walks out to the beach to see if he'll follow. And of course, he takes the bait as he closes shop and fixes his hair. But when he goes to meet with her, she holds her nose up at him as a sign that she's not pleased with what she sees. So, Oswald walks off. As he stood on the boardwalk, what really catches Fanny's eye is the lifeguard. That old trait of loving men who symbolize strength kicking in. Oswald soon uses this to his advantage and pays off the lifeguard. And it works, as Fanny's gaze was now completely all over him as he stood at the boardwalk looking tough. Now it was her who wanted all of his attention, so she decided to play a little game. She takes a nearby boat and rows it out to sea, where she changes into her swimsuit, where she then pretends like she's in trouble and calls for Oswald's help, sending him into a panic. As he rows a boat out to rescue her, Fanny's phony distress call turns into a real emergency, as a fish begins pulling her down into the water by her feet. Oswald eventually makes it out to her and dives into the water, but soon finds himself caught up in the tides along with her, which eventually tosses them both into the air and helps them get back onto the beach safely. After resuscitating and helping her make a full recovery, Fanny wakes up to thank her hero the best way she knows how, with a sizzling hot kiss. And so, All Wet ends on a happy ending.
Say your prayers, varmint. Chili. Need this.
Hey, look where you're going!
Darling! Run wild with the Animaniacs in Hollywood on your Sega Genesis and Super NES. Collect props and scripts before Pinky and the Brain take over the world. It's Konami's Animaniacs video game.
I give it 4 stars.
I give it 5.
So I was doing a Google search the other day and I came across this picture from Tumblr with Honey Bunny and Lola Bunny on it. Apparently the person behind the Tumblr made this picture in response to critics not being very fond of Honey. There is a reason you hardly ever get any notes on here, because no one gives a shit about Honey Bunny. She's a lame character who needs to die off. Honey Bunny has got to be the ugliest, more boring bitch I ever saw, and you think she's a Lola Bunny? Fucking crazy. What the hell is wrong with you? Seriously, what the hell is wrong with you? And then at the top we got Honey Bunny and Lola Bunny hurling insults back at the critics. Honestly, I never realized there's so many idiots in the world until I started using the internet. Fuck them, honey, they are all nothing else than just stupid no-lives. Don't care what they say. I don't think fucking them is a good idea. What if they get pregnant and reproduce themselves? Laugh out loud! Apparently this was the poster's poor attempt at making a joke, when in reality this is actually the type of shit that makes you constipated. Not only is this whole picture unnecessarily dramatic, but from the critics right up to the poster can all afford some lessons on how to form a complete sentence.
Kool-Aid, adicionado con vitamina C. Una sonrisa que no cuesta mucho.
Actually, seeing that Tumblr post actually renewed my interest in actually discussing Honey Bunny. And in case you didn't know, even though I feel everybody should know this is basic cartoon knowledge, Honey Bunny was the original love interest of Bugs Bunny. And as I discuss her now, she actually just had her 50th birthday a few years ago back in 2016. Her official debut was in the Looney Tunes comics in 1966. Her origin, however, is just a little bit older. The original Honey debuted in 1953, and she was a small white rabbit. This version of Honey ended up being a prototype to the Honey we would get a decade later. Back then, she wasn't a love interest yet. She was a traveling companion and Bugs' cousin. Before I go any further, let me be clear. Honey Bunny was the original girlfriend to Bugs Bunny, not the original fling. There were other girls before her, and there was quite a bit more after she debuted. People tend to take Bugs for granted because he cross-dresses a lot. Make no mistake about it, in his 80 years he has been nothing short of a womanizer. And trust me, I will be getting to quite a few of those in a second. When I think of Honey Bunny, I think of it's a prime example of what happens when somebody gets a hold of something who has no vision. The best way I can describe her is, in 1966 she was this nice fancy car just cruising down the highway. Then around 1980, the car decided to pick up a hijacker. The hijacker takes control of the wheel, runs the car off the road, and straight off the damn cliff. If you haven't seen this chart before, it's called All the Faces of Honey Bunny. It's really easy to Google search. Honey Bunny from left to right. She starts out as fine, then towards the center it starts to become okay, then towards the end you start asking yourself what the hell the problem is. Somewhere along the way somebody thought it was a good idea to make her look like a female Bugs Bunny. And then you probably say to yourself, why would they do that? Probably because they could get away with it at the time. Nobody was probably thinking about how lazy her design was becoming. To the supporters that grew up with her, she probably just looked like another Minnie Mouse to Mickey. Except Minnie grew into her own. I feel as though I can defend many female characters with enough good supporting material. I can defend who Honey was, but in her later years, there's no point trying. The artist or artistess put no effort into it, so why should you? The last 16 years of her life was basically nothing but a cash grab. That being said, I try to make this a point as often as possible nowadays, because people have gotten so dumb that they don't know where to draw the line between fiction and reality. Jessica Rabbit's famous quote was, "I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way." And it's too bad Jessica isn't around too much anymore in order to remind people of that. It is never a fictional character's fault for how they turn out. A fictional character cannot be anything beyond what the artist wants them to be. That being said, when things are going in a bad direction, everything deserves criticism. And that criticism extends to the 1980s Honey Bunny, who could have easily looked like Binky Bunny. You don't know who Binky Bunny is? Okay, Binky Bunny was from the Looney Tunes spin-off Tiny Toon Adventures. She was a one-time character who made her debut in 1992 during episode 13-something. Binky Bunny was not a Buster Bunny with eyelashes. She was an original character whose whole role was less than a minute. Just putting these two together tells you everything you need to know about the 1980s Honey. Fighting in the left corner, standing at about 2'5" with high heels. A gorgeous purple bunny who was a throwaway character and took more effort than Honey in her last 16 years. Binky Bunny! And fighting in the right corner, Bugs Bunny with eyelashes and a pussy. Honey Bunny! Now the thing to remember about Honey is, she spent one half of her better years as a comic book character. The other half was selling merchandise. That's the kicker about Honey Bunny. She has never appeared in any Looney Tune cartoon shorts. And while she was sticking to mainly comics and merchandise, on screen however we ended up with a handful of cases of other female rabbits fulfilling a role she was created for. The one in the top left corner is called Daisy Lou. She didn't look all that great herself. In fact, she somehow, strangely enough, ends up looking even less attractive than the 1980s Honey Bunny. How the hell does that happen? Along the way also, we have ended up with cases of two other yellow rabbits. At no point is it ever declared that these two are Honey Bunny. In fact, the one on the top right was Witch Hazel, and the one on the bottom was a nameless rabbit. Oh yes, let me go ahead and just save you all the trouble because I know the joke is coming. Yes, I know the one on the bottom left is extra thick! But you want to know who by far is the funniest love interest Bugs has ever had? Go ahead and take a guess. Your time is up! It was Penelope Pussycat. That was Pepe Le Pew's girl. Yeah, Cara Blanca was only a parody, but it's still a fascinating choice I would really love to know the reasoning behind. Either way, life went on. From the 1980s right up to the mid-90s, Honey continued to be the leading lady in Bugs' life. She appeared beside him on the pinball game called Bugs Bunny's Birthday Ball. Along the way, she even managed to move up in the world when she became the damsel in distress for the Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle video games. There were 4 Bugs Bunny Crazy Castle games in total. Honey played the role of biggest prize Bugs had to rescue for the first 2.
Jordan, Bugs, Bunny.
Special delivery!
Together, they just might save the world. Space Jam. You've never seen anything like it. November 15th, get ready to jam.
In 1994, the movie that would forever rearrange the face of the Looney Tunes franchise, Space Jam, was under construction. When the creators decided that they wanted some type of love interest for Bugs to chase, one of the first characters to fall in their lap was Honey Bunny. Animation's best. Daisy Lou? Lola Bunny? Or just Bugs and Drags? It was at this point, looking like her better half finally caught up to her. Say what you will about Space Jam because it was anything but perfect, but in my opinion, one of the best choices it made was denying Honey the opportunity to make it on the big screen. Imagine if Honey was given the green light the way she was presented. Nostalgia Critic would have had something so much more sharper to say besides bunny boobies. Honey Bunny found herself being tossed away, and the animators began working on a new female rabbit.
Yes. Don't ever call me doll.
Although Honey Bunny didn't make it into Space Jam herself, she still played an important role in it. Inspiration was taken from her classic 1966 design and created who we now know today as Lola Bunny. Being rejected from Space Jam, however, didn't stop Honey Bunny. She had at least another good 2 years as the poster girl. But after late 1996, things began to change. Her old comfy position as Bugs Bunny's girlfriend soon transferred to a more hipper, sexier rabbit, which was Lola, who was now enjoying her new overnight popularity. After a while, it was now her who was now starring in all the video games, and it was her whose face was now on all the comics. Somewhere around the early 2000s, Honey was ultimately phased out for good. Now, even though the character of Honey has long since been retired, I do feel I speak for a certain group out there when I say a long-awaited fight between Honey Bunny and Lola Bunny is kinda long overdue. And this is the part where I say they missed a big opportunity with 2011's The Looney Tunes Show. It almost seems not many people try to give this show a chance, but in all honesty, this was one of the more refreshing shows Cartoon Network had running at the time. And before it abruptly ended itself, it still had a lot of potential it did not tap into. It even could have been a redemption for Honey. Not saying that she needed to come back permanently, but a cameo would have been nice. Either way, I'm going to say this last part so this doesn't turn into a part 2 video. Now, technically, Lola Bunny is Honey Bunny. That's by inspiration. I know there are still some hard-pressed Honey fans out there that take that statement and run with it in order to try to keep Honey alive. Me on the other hand, no, I treat them as two separate entities. This is now the part where Jawbreaker ruins everybody's fun. One way, shape, form, or another, everything was inspired by something. That doesn't automatically mean the new creation is the same as the previous. If we went by that logic, technically the 1966 Honey Bunny was inspired by another Honey Bunny in 1953, who, once again, was Bugs' cousin. So, by that logic, Bugs has been fucking his cousin for 16 years. So, that means if Lola is Honey, that means Bugs has still been fucking his cousin for another 20. Damn it, Jawbreaker! Why you gotta ruin my childhood? But that's not how it works, now does it? Oswald the Lucky Rabbit's girlfriend, Hortensia the cat, predates Minnie Mouse by a year. Hortensia became the inspiration for Minnie Mouse. Yet, you don't hear any conversations about Minnie still being Hortensia. The way I see it is, Lola was still Honey during her Space Jam period when she was still living in her shadow and everybody was expecting her to fail. Lola, however, did make it out of Space Jam and has long since surpassed Honey. That's why I don't treat the two as the same. Lola has her own legacy, just as Honey Bunny had hers. Thank you for tuning in to Gone with the Fur Theater here on Playfur Cinema. If you liked today's video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. My name is Jawbreaker, and I thank you for watching Playfur Cinema. Look at this fucking loser. Take your fucking mail, bum ass.
Prepare yourself.
No, I'm ready. Let's go.
How often is that? like water.
Something no science can measure. Just relax.
Match point. Red team.
Leader at my anchor.
Match point. Blue team.
Don't worry, I'll pop the back. Test this for me. Called it a deterrent.
Never resting.
Here we go.
Victory!
Today in Furry Girl Profiles episode 60 takes us into a very brief look of the 1986 movie The Enchanted Forest, a story about an unknown yet seemingly magical forest purged into darkness by a villain known as the Cactus King, who wants to turn the entire land into a desert. But the Cactus King fears a prophecy that threatens his rule, that says that a human will one day come to defeat him. That human became Peter Pallet, a painter who slept under the elm tree and inherited temporarily magical powers, as well as the ability to talk to the animal creatures of the forest. If you were an 80s or 90s kid, probably one of the most memorable animals out of the film was a character by the name of Fifi Fox.
Bonjour, Monsieur l'artiste. I am Fifi Fox.
Fifi was the beautiful and delicate vixen of the film, who spoke with a French accent. She was one of the major recurring animals that helped Peter Pallet beat the Cactus King and save the forest, at one point using her beauty to sucker in the guards, as well as playing a rather big role in befriending Cactus King's former wizard, Thistle. There isn't a great deal to speak about on the topic of Fifi Fox, but it is possible she became the predecessor inspiration to a much more popular character 4 years later.
A spider!
Fifi LaFume of 1990's Tiny Toon Adventures became that much more popular character. If Fifi Fox didn't play a role in her existence, then it's a very, very strong case of coincidence. Both recognized as gorgeous characters, they both speak with a French accent, and they're both named Fifi. Yet strangely enough, you can barely find any conversations talking about their comparisons, nor does there seem to be any sources linking Fifi Fox to Fifi LaFume's origin, with only one other source saying Miss Mamselle Hansabah possibly inspired Fifi LaFume. So does it for this episode of Furry Girl Profiles. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. My name is Jawbreaker and I thank you for watching Playfur Cinema.
Hey, Mr. Beaver. Why are you beavering around? Haven't you heard of Cadbury's Caramel? See, as the thick Cadbury's milk chocolate melts with that dreamy caramel, you just have to take things really easy. Looks like somebody else could do with some. Take it easy with Cadbury's Caramel.
Folks, it's a fact of life that sooner or later all things must come to an end. This also applies to TV show characters. Some simply run their course, some have the plug pulled on them before they even get out of the starting gate, and some you expect to only be around for a minute. While some lucky few are always active, and some fade in and out the star life just waiting for their next big project. Then there's those special cases where even though their show is over, because they played such a big role in the fact that the main character is still very much active, you come to kind of expect a guest appearance from them, or at least an update on whatever happened to them. This case applies to just about almost every Disney goofy female, such as Peg here for example. And even though there's been plenty of opportunities, what ends up happening is, at some point in time, they all just vanish. So yes, Roxanne, shriek in terror, because you are just as much a part of what I am now calling the Goofy Girl Curse. Anyway, when we think of Disney characters, we commonly think of the big three, Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. Like the best of friends they are, these three commonly stick together like glue. The Three Musketeers parody, Kingdom Hearts, etc. And despite this, one of these three is not like the other. Besides different personalities, of course. The answer is, two of them have girlfriends that have been around for about as long as they have. Mickey has always had Minnie Mouse. Everywhere Mickey has gone or is going in his Disney mascot career, it's pretty much always guaranteed Minnie will be right behind him. Being created in the same year, at this point in time they are both 86 years old. Donald Duck has basically always had Daisy Duck. And they are not too far apart either, with Donald only being 6 years older than Daisy. And just like Mickey and Minnie, just about everywhere Donald goes, Daisy follows. But Goofy on the other hand, seems to have always been a different case. Goofy has never had any permanently established females. As a matter of fact, all the major females had a run shorter than the lifespan of a hamster, which is 5 years, with Roxanne being the only exception. But this is only really because Roxanne has big gaps between her appearances. In 1995, she made both her movie and a comic strip appearance. Skips a year and has one more comic strip appearance in 1997. She would then go on a 4-year absence. She would then resurface in 2002 and make her last appearance in House of Mouse. There is one woman in particular I did not include on the list, and she was written off even before the events of Goof Troop took place. And if you guessed it, you will know I'm talking about Goofy's wife and Max's mom.
Howdy, ma'am.
My hero.
Good.
Between the years of 1951 and 1953, Goofy dated and married a woman named Mrs. Grief, otherwise known as Mrs. Goof. In the Goofy cartoon short, Fathers Are People, she would give birth to Goofy Jr., who was later reanimated as Max Goof during Goof Troop.
How it feels to chew 5 gum. Stimulate your senses.
Today here on Furry Girl Profiles, episode 63 brings us directly back into the Goof Troop universe, with Goofy and his son Max. The Disney series ran from 1992 to 1993. The series was followed up by two spin-off movies, 1995's A Goofy Movie, and in 2000, an extremely goofy movie, where our next featured girl can be found.
Life is like a lime. It's tart and tangy. Sweet. Oh, so sublime.
The last and possibly best known love interest of PJ away from Rose Deckenbloom, a one-time major character who looked good in black to equally match her knack for words. In fact, she was such a major character, the movie didn't feel the need to give her an official name. Voiced by Vicki Lewis, she was dubbed as Beret Girl, named after the classic French hat she wore throughout the film. At an early midpoint into the film, Max, PJ, and Bobby discover a coffee shop called the Bean Scene on their college campus. Settling in, we got our first look at Beret performing in a cafe, and PJ found something that made his heart melt. It was not long after her performance that Max, PJ, and Bobby got into a dispute with Bradley and the Gammas. The Gammas decided to start a fight when Max refused to join their skate team without Bobby and PJ. That's when Beret stepped in to break up all the commotion, which led to one of the most memorable roles in her short existence.
I like your style, little Miss Mochaccino, but I'm busy right now.
Ha! Oh, you slay me, tiger. You are the fly in my soup. You are the eyelash in my eye. You are so busy blowing out bad vibes in every direction that we are all choking on your secondhand smoke.
Note to self, never start a fight in a poetry club, because they will snap. Or in this case, snap you out of the building. After the Gammas left, Beret officially befriended Max and friends, and oddly enough, they did not exchange names with each other. The next we will see of her is at Club Dave. After turning down Bobby and his buffoonery, she accepted Max's invitation to come sit with them. It's here her and PJ finally get acquainted with each other. And needless to say, PJ put the moves on her.
No regard to the depth of their souls, the height of their passion, the beauty of their moments.
Beret instantly found herself slain by PJ's way for words, so much so that she invited him to come dance with her.
Oh, you're swinging with some pretty cool canines there, Papa Dog.
Well, you are queen of the scene, my little Java bee.
PJ, you have definitely come a long way since Goof Troop. And as time progressed in the film and he got more in touch with his poetic side, Max was falling apart, to the point he was considering transferring colleges. That's where Beret did lay on a little bit of words of wisdom for him.
Admit defeat, and defeat will surely admit you into permanent custody, my man.
Even though the bro hype train didn't need her much.
Boys will be boys.
The last time we would see Beret, she is in the background with PJ after Goofy's graduation. By this point, they were officially a couple. And so ends this edition of Furry Girl Profiles. Thanks for tuning in to Furry Girl Profiles Beret Girl. If you liked today's video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future videos. My name is Jawbreaker, and I thank you for watching Playfur Cinema.
I got the beans.
I got the ketchup. I got the buns.
I don't even know if that's PG.
Just like Sabrina and Clarice, Amy has been featured in numerous cartoon shorts. Several cartoon shorts to be exact. She appears twice in Remote Possibilities and Plight of the Artist, and appears in 5 cartoons based on her. Today we're going to be taking a look at those 5. So we head back to 1990 to take a look at Amy at the movies. Before Thomas Wolfe came along, Amy had another boyfriend, a squirrel with a red shirt who doesn't seem to have his own name. Eric male characters having a tendency to be, well, very straightforward, meaning if they want something, they'll just take it. And what he wanted didn't involve the movie. Ah, the movies. The cinematic experience, the smell of popcorn, and the opportunity to grope your girlfriend's tits. He doesn't beat around the bush, even though he wants to. Too bad Amy will have none of it. Closing her legs for business, she might have then changed her mind a little bit. He then takes it as an invitation and forces himself on Amy. Some say this scene might be date rape, but Amy seems to accept him as she wraps her legs around him. At the Movies was Amy's first official animated cartoon short. Because of this, at this point in time, Eric described Amy's personality as out of character. A computer film created by Eric Schwartz. Columbus, Ohio. The Empire gets ready to face an enemy more powerful than that of the Jedi. AVW2. With the greatest weapon known to man, Amy Squirrel stars in Amy vs. Walker 2. She battles the Empire with the office stapler. Now that we think about it, this idea was pretty stupid. Coming never. We now head back to the movies a year later in 1991, with Amy and her still very frisky boyfriend in At the Movies 2. When the scene opens, with his arm around Amy, he's already trying to go for a home run. This time, however, she was ready for him. She tries to remain defensive around him by keeping her arms around her breast, at least until she started getting drowsy. Amy would then fall asleep and have a dream about her boyfriend. Here, looking very spiffy with his bow tie tuxedo and top hat, not only is he very dashing, he's also very smooth. And judging by the look on her face, that's the way she likes it. Oh, you didn't know Amy had a freaky side? How you think she got pregnant? Getting intimate with her boyfriend, she squeezes him tightly, and then decides to let him in. Too bad for Amy though, it was all a dream. Or was it? Waking up in a very odd position, Amy then glances at him trying to decipher reality from her dream. She then comes to the conclusion it wasn't. But we already knew better, now didn't we? Amy unknowingly had sex with him in her sleep. What a dick. We now fast forward to 1994. If something isn't done soon, political correctness is bound to kill good sexist humor. Eric Schwartz, 1992. And we love sexism, don't we? So let's watch a sexist cartoon. Next up, A Walk in the Park by Amy Squirrel. A Walk in the Park is a part of a 15-minute videotape titled Amy the Squirrel Video Special.
Bet you wish your hair could do that.
Yes, Amy. Sally, yes. Now the moment you all been waiting for. Ass! Remember to thank Eric later for the fan service. After making a really difficult choice on outfits, Amy puts on her headphones and gets ready to set out for work. Almost completely unaware of her surroundings, in a Minerva Mink type fashion, she has no idea that that booty is getting ready to cause complete train wreck. Danger, impending gags. Really cliched ones. Well, besides that, Eric is known for leaving Easter eggs to other cartoon shows in his animations. In case you didn't know that already, try and see if you can spot them. I spy with my own eye a fine woman walking by with the big old thighs. It's like real life, but with more accidents. Now, to be fair to Amy, that time wasn't her fault. Here we have a boyfriend playing with his girlfriend in the park. Let's just hope he doesn't do anything drastic, like say, knock his own girlfriend out. Hey, you okay? But that ass though. Ouch! Oh, look who it is. No, buddy, she don't want you no more. Did you spot the Easter egg? Next up, a pilot, who just so happens to be flying over Amy's location. And wouldn't you know it, he locks onto the booty just like everybody else. But Amy's impending luck is about to be his downfall. In reference to Two Life Crew, face down, ass up. Look out, man! Now, in case you don't get the reference here, this mouse with the mallet standing over the watermelon is a reference to prop comic comedian Gallagher. He smashes watermelons as a part of his act, but since he now knows Amy works in the hospital, not today. Yes, we get it. She has a nice set of honkers. Look at all the casualties. Oops, almost forgot one.
Why is it my shift is always the busiest?
We couldn't tell you, Amy. But does Babs Bunny have breast implants? Anyway, we now move forward to Amy's last solo cartoon, 3 years later in 1997. Since then, Sabrina Online has been published and Amy got a bigger role, along the way maturing as a character. There's far more Easter eggs this time around. See if you recognize them. Nope, no copyright infringement here. This time Amy is back at the movies with her boyfriend. Oh, no, I meant her real boyfriend. Thomas Wolfe. Amy since the last time has finally kicked her douchebag ex to the side. Oh, you can tell them to go get a room, and they'll probably do it. Literally. Thomas decides the moment isn't ready yet, and like a gentleman offers to go get the popcorn, leaving Amy a moment to fantasize about her dreamboat. But as Thomas exits, the nightmare enters. Her ex shows up to the movies and he's got nothing but bad intentions. He's a rapist and doesn't know when to stop abusing Amy. It's payback time. But before Amy could act, Thomas returns. Take a good look at him, folks, because this is the last time you're gonna see him. On that note, folks, I get ready to leave you to the rest of the video. Now, shh. Here comes my favorite part of the movie.
Hey look, Joel, this guy's a producer-director.
Yeah, maybe he'll do a producer-director's cut later.
How about an animator backgrounder's cut?
You know, I thought there was something special about scene 22. What do you think, guys?
Magnifique! Wow!
Moo.
Moo.
Moo. Moo.
Another poor soul trying to get his measure of fame by clinging onto the Schwartz bandwagon.
Ah, Servo, that was uncalled for. You get a timeout for that one.
Ah, the covering our asses portion of the credits.
Are they really the best brains?
You know, I think this guy hires too many people named Eric Schwartz.
So until next time, everybody, read Sabrina Online!
You are cute.
I don't need it. I don't need it. I definitely don't need it. I 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 need it!
Today's Furry Girl profile double feature first drops us off at 1980's Animal Olympics, a movie that took anthropomorphic animals and tossed them into the Olympic Games, where they faced off in competition in a wide range of sports. With such a wide cast of wacky characters, this will mark our third visit to the film, and Jawbreaker can give you 2 good reasons it definitely won't be the last. The fencing portion of Animal Olympics came very late towards the film, about the last 15 to 20 minutes late. We were dropped in the final round with a boar by the name of Maurice Bordeaux, who apparently was cheating throughout the entire competition. The only competition standing between him and the gold now was a flying squirrel called Duke. Duke too is eventually defeated by Dirty Tactics.
You stupid rodent, no one beats me.
Before Bordeaux was awarded the gold, someone had a last-minute objection.
This time you have gone too far, Bordeaux.
It was a lady hawk by the name of the Contessa, and she had a bone to pick with Bordeaux over disgracing her sport. Once she hit the arena floor, their swords were clashing. She was voiced by Gilda Radner, who voiced a handful of other females in the movie, which included Brenda Springer and Tatiana Tashenko.
You'll never fence again.
You've never fenced before.
Continuing on in his scummy ways, he overpowers her and shoves her to the ground. He dashes towards her in order to deliver the final blow. But with the might of her unusually strong drumstick legs, she flips him off the ground and sends him into a wall. Now trapped in a corner, she redisarmed him swiftly and took a few moments to embarrass him, before he ultimately got poked for victory. Despite her never officially being in the final round, the scoreboard lit up with Contessa at a solid 100. She probably felt she didn't need the gold medal, but everyone else felt she deserved it. But when it's tossed to her by Duke, she gladly accepted it. And it's a victory for Eurasia as she exits.
There is a hamburger side, and there is a tomato side. There is Pepe, and there is Mademoiselle. Ho, ho, ho. En garde, pigeon.
When those that are kept apart finally come together, it's not just good.
It is fantastic.
McDonald's new McDLT.
How is it going, ladies and gentlemen? I am Jawbreaker and welcome to Playfur Cinema's Gone with the Fur Theater. Today's video is half fan requested and half dealer's choice. Somebody wanted me to make another topic based on Roxanne, while I wanted to do a follow-up video from Furry Girl Profile's Mona. 3 things they have in common. They were both created by Disney, they're both Goofy girls, and they were both the love interests for the rebooted Goofy Jr., Max. Oh right, there is one more thing they have in common. They were both characters who were very short-lived, especially Mona. If you've ever had the chance to take a look at my Scrapped Furry Girl Profiles video, 2 years ago I wanted to do a mega project on all the main Goofy girls of the Disney franchise. And within that video I spoke about how all Goofy girls have one thing in common with both Mona and Roxanne as well. They're also very short-lived. Let me put it this way. Nowadays, if your name is not at least Minnie Mouse or Daisy Duck, or if you are not at least a Disney princess, then chances are, as a Disney female, you will not be immortalized within the franchise. But truth be told, it's not solely so much a Goofy Girl issue, as it is a cartoon female issue in general. Cartoon females usually tend to not be as big as their male counterparts. Unless of course they were supposed to be the main character of a series themselves. Though that's not strongly the case anymore as it was probably 20 years ago. You are still more likely to see Pepe Le Pew on his own more often than you are to see his love interest, Penelope Pussycat, who I am very sure has never had a solo cartoon away from him. But when it comes to Disney, Disney has a bit of a track record of creating characters who were supposed to be throwaways that ended up becoming diamonds. When I say diamonds, I mean they could have been worth so much more than what they were supposed to be. And in my personal opinion, a good number of those goofy females were potential diamonds. Looking back at Debbie, for example, I can honestly say she was one of those throwaways that ended up being a potential diamond because it was so easy to fall in love with her. She only showed up once in Leader of the Pack, and she showed that she wasn't just a cute face, she could also kick your ass as well. And not only that, she also showed that she was just as cunning as her cousin Max. But Debbie's circumstances was being a plot character, meaning she was only there to advance the story and nothing more. But I guess there simply just wasn't enough room for any more redheads besides Peg and Pistol. Debbie's issue was also Penny Packer's issue during Goof Troop. Now Penny Packer was a potential love interest for Goofy. Now unlike Debbie, Penny Packer was a one-time character whose role was mediocre and pointless. A one-time character who barely shows up in her episode and then towards the end drops a potential hint that her and Goofy might end up being more. But nothing ever became of that because she was never seen again And then when the second Goofy movie came out, that ruled her out altogether because during that movie, Goofy ended up dating a librarian named Sylvia. As a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, Goofy proposed to her. But as you might have guessed, she only showed up once, only to advance the movie plot. I'm a big fan of Goof Troop in general, and I enjoy what they did for the character of Goofy. But the inconsistencies that came with that series really bothers me. It's a show that didn't even appreciate its two main females, Peg and Pistol, enough to let the fans know what happened to them between a Goofy movie and Extremely Goofy movie. Instead, it leaves its audience to speculate that Peg might have divorced Pete and took Pistol with her due to all the arguments they were having. But, again, that's fan speculation. Peg and Pistol might have very well still been home. Looking at the character of Lola Bunny as far as love interests go, and I like to use Lola as my measuring stick because it's easy to make so many good and bad examples using her. Say what you want about Warner Brothers sometimes because they definitely got a bad track record themselves. After Warner Brothers decided that they were done with Honey Bunny, one of the main things they stayed consistent with was the character of Lola. And when you think about it, they might as well have because up to the point Lola was created, the Looney Tunes have never truly had a big female lead. But because of Space Jam, Lola became an overnight success and they stuck with her and rode that wave for 20 years. If only those same circumstances were the same for Roxanne. Now this red-headed bombshell is easy to fall in love with as well. As a matter of fact, she was the first cartoon crush for a lot of boys growing up. Roxanne did indeed have a lot of fans, and a lot of those fans wanted to see her return and watch her relationship develop some more with Max. Especially after Max made a fool of himself and almost got suspended trying to impress her, even though Roxanne already liked him in the first place. I would say Roxanne's biggest strength was being demanding, because she was definitely going to dump Max on the porch for canceling on their plans. And that's when Max has to make up a very tall lie about knowing Powerline that would not only backfire on him with her, but the entire school. Though I think we got to see more of her weaknesses than we got to see her strengths during the movie. Though I will say one of those weaknesses added a cute element to her, because whenever she was nervous, she started playing with her hair. Not to mention that old classic selfish teenager syndrome. Though it wasn't that bad because it usually came out whenever Max had to break his plans with her. But besides that, she was a very accepting character. She accepted Max and more importantly, she accepted his father Goofy. Because when you think about it, if they can't accept Goofy, they're not worth keeping. Roxanne overall should have remained the active character. If Disney really wanted to, they could have kept Goofy as a widow and allowed Max to keep his biggest love interest. Instead, that didn't happen. They dropped the ball on her. They dropped the ball on her like so many characters before her, and they dropped the ball on her like so many characters after her. However, I will say Disney tried to do a little bit of something with her that made her the longest lasting Goofy female. But when you really get a chance to take a look at the time frame between all of her appearances, that's still not good. Roxanne did make comic appearances, but there was a year gap in between them. Her first comic book appearance was in 1995. Then after 1996, she made one more comic appearance in 1997. After 1997, however, is when things started to go downhill. For an entire 5 years, Roxanne was absent from the picture, and she wasn't even mentioned in the movie sequel. But 5 years later, in 2002, House of Mouse was still airing, a cartoon I now like to call BCCC, a big cartoon cameo clusterfuck, where you're supposed to reimagine the Disney characters as celebrities and not think that any of the villains are actually deceased. But yes, in 2002, somebody thought of Roxanne enough to have her make a cameo appearance on the show. That episode was titled Max's Embarrassing Date. This episode took place after the events of an Extremely Goofy movie, which opened up the possibility that perhaps Roxanne and Max were on a break while Max was in college. There are other possibilities, but this is what happens when Disney decides to not give any details. But, at last, this ended up being Roxanne's farewell episode. She never made another appearance in anything else ever again. This year, as of January 19, 2017, it would be 15 years since Roxanne last made an appearance. But a mere 2 years later in 2004, Disney came out with a movie sequel, Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas. Max makes a return appearance during this movie. Now, the thing about this movie is, this becomes the last official appearance for Max. And this time, he's not with Roxanne, he's with a new girl named Mona. Remember when I said plot characters and the fact that Disney keeps creating characters that are throwaways? Mona was the pure definition of a throwaway plot character. Oy. This movie ended up being Mona's only appearance. There are only but so many characters I have ever jabbed at on this channel. On 2 occasions I have had to jab at Mona. Now, don't misunderstand me. I actually do not hate Mona. I actually do have a teensy bit of a soft spot for her. My issue with her has always been random character, wrong placement in a spot that should have been for Roxanne. And the part that agitates me most about this is Mona is probably only really there because the designers didn't want to deal with Roxanne's long hair. Apparently back then, creating long hair like Roxanne's was too difficult. And that's the moment you realize common sense was cut off during the making of this movie. During the events of this storyline, Max is still written to be in college. How long of a time gap in between an extremely goofy movie and House of Mouse is never clear. But what was lacking during this time was imagination. If the writers really wanted Roxanne in this movie, Roxanne would have been in this movie. Because what exactly would have prevented Roxanne from cutting her hair? Furthermore, you want to know an interesting detail about Roxanne and Mona? Not only is it agreed that they both look alike, but Roxanne's original voice actress from the first movie, Kelly Martin, also voiced Mona. So in other words, summing this all up, if there's ever any more goofy girls in the future, it's probably best not to get attached to them. As long as there is a Goofy, there is a possibility that Max might return. But the girls on the other hand, all they ever do is come, and all they ever do is go. This will not be my last time discussing the females of Goofy. Plenty of them still don't have a profile yet, and there's still plenty of things to rant on. But on one final note, I want to talk about a comment. The comment's not from this channel, by the way, it's from another video entirely. And they were talking about how everybody was upset that Max and Roxanne broken up. But he, on the other hand, had a different opinion and felt that it was more realistic that they were broken up. Because they were teenagers and barely experienced anything. And in real life, young love usually doesn't last long. To me, really, that's a perspective thing. Yes, nowadays, young love is rare, but it's not impossible. There's nothing there stopping two teenagers like Max and Roxanne from being together for a very long time if they really want to. It all depends on the mindset of the individuals, because if they really want that relationship to work, then they'll try harder to figure out how to make it work. Besides, this is fiction, and nothing's impossible in fiction. Well, that's it for me, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you liked today's video, please leave a like, and leave a comment, and subscribe for future videos. My name is Jawbreaker, and I thank you for watching Playfur Cinema.